Michael, not one, not two, not three, not four, not five. I'm still not done, Michael, but six unanswered goals. What a game.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Bay Bolts channel. As Jake said in the introduction, six unanswered goals. The Lightning win this game 6-3. Welcome back to this episode of Quick Strikes. My name is Michael Wax, joined as always with my co-host Jake Ricker. Jake, an up and down game to end this Chicago series. How are you doing?
Michael, play all night, baby. What a game. What a win. That was a really fun one to watch. Pretty stressful for a little while, but very, this team just continues to find ways to completely flip the script in these games and come back even when they're playing poorly and just completely dominate and show that there's a reason they're the defending Stanley Cup champions. So lots to break down in this one. So let's jump right into it.
Lots to break down indeed. And the first bit of news that we got happened before the game. During warmups, when Andre Vasilevsky led the Lightning onto the ice, we found out that Andreas Borgman was going to be making his Lightning debut, replacing Luke Shen in the lineup. Jan Ruda was missing his second straight game with his lower body injury. Jake, I'm interested to hear your thoughts. What did you think of Borgen's play throughout the game? He didn't really play a ton, only played about 10, 11 minutes, but what did you think of the impact that he made?
Well, hey, first of all, we talked about it. We said we'd love to see Boardman get an opportunity in the last Quick Strikes video. And hey, here he is. He got his opportunity. I thought he played pretty good at the start of this game. He made a couple of nice plays. I don't think he jumped off the paper at any point. It wasn't like, wow, this guy should have been playing for a long time. He played all right, I thought. Now, I know a lot of people were very upset with him when it came to that first Chicago goal and thought he could have played that a lot better and potentially prevented that goal. But to be fair to him, he hasn't played in forever. So I'm sure he's a little bit rusty jumping into the swing of things, especially on a brand new team. He's never played for the Lightning. This is his first game with the Bolts. So, you got to cut him a little bit of slack there. But, overall for his first game, I thought he played all right. So, it's going to be interesting to see. Excuse me. We'll get to another injury in just a minute here. And if Jan Ruda continues to stay out, he's probably going to have to play a little bit more. So I thought he played all right. I'm very curious to see, though, how he continues. That's the big question here is, can he continue to develop with his team, learn the system, and get better?
Yeah, absolutely. I thought he played pretty well overall. He did have that mishap on the first goal, but otherwise, I thought he had a pretty decent showing for his first game in a Lightning uniform. But Jake, as you mentioned, that first goal sort of led to a snowball effect, and the Lightning really struggled in that first period, whether it was taking penalties, whether it was losing faceoffs, whether it was keeping the puck out of their zone. They really struggled in doing that. So Chicago, to their advantage, really pressured and got a 3-0 lead to start this game. That first goal, I guess you can blame it a little bit on Borgman. Second goal is a beautiful passing play on the power play. I'm not too really concerned with that. That's just Chicago's playmakers going to work. And then the third one, you want Sergachev to cover his guy. You want Vasilevsky to make the save. But the snowball effect really hit the Lightning hard and put them down 3-0 to start this game.
Yeah, and this is credit to Chicago. They played a fantastic game to start things off here, which is a part of the reason why they were up 3-0 just a little bit after into that second period. And, this does seem to be potentially a common problem for the Lightning for whatever reason, at least against Chicago anyway, in these last couple of games. They've struggled getting off to a good start. And I just don't know if it's something about playing in the central time zone, maybe playing at 2:30 today, because that was a weird time to play a hockey game, which is always tough. But they're definitely seeing something going on because they have not gone off to good starts and they kind of just seemed like they were a step behind and they just weren't really all there, which was interesting. Now, the good news is that completely changed very quickly after that third goal. But I think the big question for me now is, was this just something going on with Chicago and we were just couldn't get off to a good start against Chicago, or something Chicago was doing, or is this going to continue as we now get set to go take on the Detroit Red Wings? Are we going to have bad starts to begin with that, or are we get back to our, playing really mostly full 60-minute games? So that's going to be something to keep an eye on. I don't know, but the good news is, at least if this problem does continue, we know the Lightning can completely flip a switch and come right back.
Yeah, so do you remember how during the first game of the series I said, this is a team that, or this is a game that reminded me a lot of the 2018-2019 team?
Yes.
I will not lie, the first two periods reminded me of that 2018-2019 team because they got down early. They were making a lot of mistakes, but they were able to score their way out of problems. But like you mentioned, I think this is a Chicago specific problem because we haven't really seen it when it comes to other teams. I
Right.
think Chicago has done a really good job of focusing on their strengths to begin games, and then their lack of depth has really cost the Lightning when it comes, or the lack of depth has really cost them late in games because they have to rely on their stars, and their stars haven't really been performing, and the Lightning stars come to play. But Jake, going from the, I guess, negative of the 3-0 deficit, let's get to our first big positive of the game. And he didn't necessarily score the first goal, but he had 2 goals and 2 assists, a career night for Yanni Gord. What a game for Gord.
He was absolutely fantastic. Obviously, was big on the score sheet, had some goals, had some assists in this one. Also, just his speed, I thought, was just on another level tonight. He had a lot of great opportunities. He was a big reason why Maroon was able to get that sixth goal later in the game. Just all around great play for him. He was hustling all over the place, being physical as he is. Very often he's a guy that you don't want to mess with and get angry whatsoever. So fantastic job from Yanni Gord. He played a really, really good game. He's been pretty solid, I think, for most of the season. He hasn't really been, on top of the Lightning sheet when it comes to points and stuff like that. But he's quietly had a pretty decent season. But tonight, or today, really, he played a fantastic game.
Yeah, he was great. Take away everything on the score sheet, which is hard to do when you have 4 points. But he really, really made sure that the Lightning were in either the neutral or the offensive zone when he was on the ice. And he always made sure to make that smart play, make that smart pass. It got him the 2 assists. That not only did he contribute to that sixth goal, which was the Pat Maroon goal, he contributed to that fifth goal as well. He stole the puck along the boards in the offensive zone, got it to a wide open Alex Killorn in the slot. It was really a shovel pass to Killorn, and Killorn had all the time in the world to just snipe that puck. But I think something that we need to get to when it comes to the majority of the goals that the Lightning scored in this game, including both of the goals, or one of the goal, excuse me, that Yanni Gord scored tonight. The power play, 4 for 5, really, really solid. 4 for 4 when it comes to minor penalties. And again, we'll get to the major in a second, but just 100% when it comes to minors. And that is something that you really need, is the just tenacity and the willingness to score on minor penalties, and really not give the Blackhawks any sort of shot in the final 30 minutes, basically.
Power play looked fantastic. And by the way, who was it to start things off on the power play, but none other than Andre Palat? Andre Palat has been fantastic for the Lightning on the power play, both when Stamkos was out in the playoffs last year and with Kucherov out right now. He has just been absolutely fantastic. It almost makes you wonder, where is he going to go when Kucherov eventually comes back? Because, he definitely deserves maybe even some time on that first power play unit, definitely on the second. Obviously, he's got a wicked shot, especially when it comes from that circle, and he's been great. So fantastic job by the power play all around. It's always good to see them getting on a little bit of a roll. They've been playing, better and better, I've noticed, with the power play. And tonight, I think, was the first night they really had one of their best nights, going, as you mentioned, 4 for 4 when it comes to minor penalties, and 4 for 5 overall on the game. So cannot be upset whatsoever at the power play. Let's hope this continues and rolls over into these games, because this is the type of power play you're going to need when you're playing teams like the Panthers and the Hurricanes, who are, the Hurricanes are a very good defensive team. This is the kind of power play you need. You're not going to go 4 for 5 every night, but even if you just go 1 for 3, even 1 for 5, that helps those power play goals. So it's good to see the power play team getting on a roll. Lightning are playing really some of their best hockey right now, and I can't wait to see them take on one of the other top teams in the division and see how they fare against them.
Yeah, and we mentioned the 4 power play goals, and the one power play that the Lightning didn't score on was the major. And it's not so much we're going to talk about how they played on the major, but the what really caused that major penalty, Jake, a 5-minute penalty, a game misconduct to Connor Murphy for what I think is one of the most dangerous hits we've seen this year. And that's saying a lot considering that Tom Wilson absolutely destroyed a Boston Bruin and got suspended for 7 games earlier this week. Just a predatory hit, left his feet, jumped, which was a new thing considering that Connor Murphy is 6'4", which, that is dangerous in itself. Went for the head, may have not gotten all of it, which is the scary sight. Uh, Cernak was okay, like he skated to the bench, but he might be out long term. A really dangerous hit, and one that will leaves the Lightning very vulnerable coming onto their next couple of games.
Yeah, and first and foremost, obviously, we hope Eric Chernak is okay and he'll be able to return very quickly. Obviously, don't wish any kind of injury upon any player like that. But yeah, this was not a great hit whatsoever. Now, usually when I see these things, I try to hold back, my Lightning bias as much as possible. But I think there's no question in this one, he went right towards Chernak. You could definitely see him start to go up. I couldn't tell. I didn't watch too much of the replays if he actually came completely off his feet, but he definitely went up high. He definitely got some head contact. So just not a good hit. And he did get a 5-minute penalty in a game misconduct, I believe. So the NHL player safety is going to look at this. So this will be reviewed. And I would imagine Murphy's probably going to get a suspension. Now if it's going to be 1, 2, 3 games, who knows? I don't think Murphy's a repeat offender at all. So I think this could be on the lower end of the suspension. But, it does hurt the Bolts. It's going to be interesting to see what the injury is. I believe we don't have any updates as of right now. We just know that it's an upper body injury. But as you mentioned, this does hurt the Bolts, especially on that right-handed side, because we don't have a ton of those defenders. So, we're going to have to look to Boardman, Luke Shen, Cal Foote. All those guys are going to have to step up here too, especially if Ruda continues to be out for a couple more days. Ruda's only day to day, so I do expect him to be back relatively soon, which is good. But for the time being, with both those guys out, we're going to need some defenders to step up, or, maybe this is something I kind of talked about this in the last video as well. We may have to address this at the trade deadline. We may need to grab another right-handed defender for depth purposes to try and help us out in these kinds of situations. But hopefully he's okay. Hopefully he's able to come back soon. Hopefully Ruda's able to come back soon. Not a great hit from Connor Murphy, and we'll have to wait and see what the NHL Players 50 decides on the suspension.
Yeah, it was really hard to remove the fandom part of it when you're watching the game and you see that sort of hit. But that's a hit that really just doesn't belong in the NHL.
No.
And it was I don't think it was as bad as the Tom Wilson hit. Again, Tom Wilson is a repeat offender. He's someone that has continually had this problem, but it was not a great hit from Connor Murphy. You could basically roll the wheel or spin the wheel, see what the Department of Player Safety is going to say, because you never know with them. But good on the referees for knowing and seeing that it was a predatory hit.
Comment down below how many games you think Connor Murphy will be suspended, or let us know if you think it's just going to be fine. I'd love to hear what you guys' thoughts are. I say maybe a 1-2 game suspension. Michael, what's your prediction?
I say 3. Keep anywhere between 1 and 5, most likely. So in the middle, number 3. Going from there, We touched on the biggest negative of the game, which was probably the Chernak injury. We have to talk about someone who I thought had a great game as well, Pat Maroon. So Pat Maroon was fantastic in a multitude of ways. And one of the comments that we received, or one of the questions that we received during intermission, was, "Do you see the fourth line playing in the third period?" My answer was no, but play Pat Maroon in the power play, because as we saw early in the game, and by early I mean like probably 5 minutes before that question, he set a brilliant screen for Yanni Gord's second goal of the game. Well, lo and behold, they decide to put the fourth line on the ice with about 5 minutes to go and a 2-goal lead, and they draw a penalty. Pat Maroon draws a penalty against Duncan Keith.
Probably should have
Pat
been
Maroon
a
then,
penalty shot, but that's a story for another day.
you know, as you mentioned before we started recording, they're never going to call penalty shots anymore. So, but Matthew Joseph on the power play, Pat Maroon on the power play, Pat Maroon gets the rebound goal. So, Pat Maroon had a really good game. I think the fourth line in the third period had a good period. They kind of struggled in the first two periods. But, Pat Maroon is that guy that, it's not always going to be a game where he's doing great because he's older, he's slower. It's that mentality for him where, they call him the big rig for a reason. He hits you hard, but at the same time, he's kind of slow as bricks. I'm going to be honest with you. But a really good game from him. And one more thing before I get to you, Jake, his 100th career goal on that power play goal to make it 6-3. So a big congratulations to Pat Maroon.
Yeah, 100 goals. That is absolutely fantastic. And he played great today. And as you mentioned, Pat Maroon is not the type of player to have these types of games where he's showing up on the score sheet like that. He's really a very physical guy. He brings that extra physical element for the Lightning. He is a leader both on and off the ice. If you listen to the broadcast all the time, they're always talking about how important he is on a leadership role for this team. So it's really good to see that Pat Maroon is now having some success on the ice as well. He played a great game today. Very happy for him. I was really hoping he was going to get that penalty shot there, but I'm glad he got that power play goal because he did a great job, put himself in a perfect position to grab that rebound. Shout out to Yanni Gord, who put on an excellent shot as well, right on net, and Maroon was right there for the rebound. So played a great game today. It's very good to see him get his opportunities, even though he's more of that physical leader type of role.
Yeah, and one more thing before we get to the end of this video. Vasi, say what you will, thought he played a decent game. Um, you mentioned the defense with Jan Ruda being out for his second straight game and Eric Chernak now being out for the foreseeable future, I'm guessing, because that looked like a concussion instantly. Is this a situation where you need to look to Syracuse, or do you have enough defensive depth on the main roster and the taxi squad to make it work?
Normally, when it comes to the Lightning, I would say look to Syracuse because we have such good depth down there and we've done such a good job at drafting. However, especially when it comes to right-handed defensemen, just in defensemen in general, I think that's one area the Lightning are a little lacking when it comes to depth. They still have very good depth, and you could probably very easily call someone up from Syracuse and be okay. But I think I'd like the Lightning to try and explore. Now, remember, we are still in a cap crunch situation. It's still not an ideal situation when it comes to that. We'll be okay playoff time. They'll have to rework things in the offseason, but it's a whole nother video. But I would like to see the Lightning try to explore, maybe find a cheap seventh defenseman that they can possibly bring in, kind of like they did, with Boardman, for example, and then Zach Bogosian, like they did last year, who was excellent for us. So maybe something like that they can try and pick up for cheap and make it work. So if they could do that, I think that's ideal. If you have to, though, I do think you can use Syracuse for the time being because hopefully, as I mentioned, Jan Ruda will be back relatively soon, which will help us out a lot when it comes to that. Also, you mentioned Vasilevsky. he didn't have the greatest game, but hey, Vasi deserves a night off. Let's get, he's played so good over all these games. We can cut him a little bit of slack. He did play great in that third period, though. He really locked things down. There were 2 huge turnovers in front of the net because Lightning got a little sloppy for a second, and he made 2 fantastic stops. So he does get a lot of credit for that third period as well.
Yeah, so one of the teams that I've heard is going to start selling off their players is Buffalo. Brendan Montour
Surprise,
is on the
surprise.
block. Brendan Montour is on the block, though. That's a guy who, though he is left-handed, would love to see on the right side because he does play on the right side. So, Lightning, pick up the phone, offer him literally anything because they're trying to sell off the farm and see what happens. Like this is, I think for the Lightning, this is a bigger problem than getting that 7th defenseman. That's like that right-handed defenseman. I think they need a top 4 right-handed defenseman because right now, and I love Cal Foote, your top 2 right-handed defensemen are Cal Foote and Mikhail Sergachev, who's left-handed and plays left-handed defense. That's not good enough. And I understand the injury bug has hit them hard, but you need to start making calls if you're Julian Brisebois. So that's sort of the situation right now. But Jake, anything else you have about this come from behind victory?
Last thing I'll say is, listen, obviously as we said in this video, not a great start, but the Lightning did a fantastic job at coming back in this game. It was a fun one to watch. That's for sure. A lot of guys played a really solid game. We don't always get to mention everybody in these videos, but there were some other guys too that played really solid. Steven Stamkos had another great game tonight as well. So I love to see it from this team. Currently keeping up the point streak as well, even though the win streak was ended. Point streak is still going strong. So we got Detroit up next. So hopefully they can continue this great hockey right now and keep it on a roll and keep on moving up the standings and play, keeping defending that title of highest goal differential in the entire league is Lightning are plus 35 right now, which is really impressive. So I'm enjoying it. Love it. Let's keep it going.
Saying keep going up the standings like we aren't at the top of the Central Division.
Well, we got to catch Toronto. Toronto's the only team above us in the league standing. So I'm looking for that number 1 spot, Michael. I got number 1 on my mind. I'm ready for Pat Maroon to have back-to-back Stanley Cups.
You know what? That is a great mentality, especially as a fan. But guys, that is going to do it for us on this episode of Quick Strikes. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Ring that bell for notifications. Comment down below. Also, Jake is going to link this up in the top right-hand corner. We did an interview with Tampa Bay Lightning legend Rick Peckham, who spent 24 years here in Tampa Bay as the play-by-play broadcaster. One of the coolest things we've gotten to do during our time here at Bay Bolts. Also, make sure to follow us on social media at Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Bay_Bolts for all your news, notes, and game recaps. Guys,
Links
once
in the
again,
description.
for Jake Ricker, link in the description, exactly. Once again, for Jake Ricker and Michael Wax, thank you so much for watching. And your Tampa Bay Lightning are defending Stanley Cup champions.
Go Bolts.